Hello everyone, and welcome to Depression in the Elderly, video log presentation number 4, Importance of the Social Assessment During the Depression Screen, Part 2. My name is Contessa Sims, and I'm glad to have you join me for today's presentation. Today, I'll share with you the important aspects of the social assessment that you can observe for during the depression screen. The goals and objectives for the social assessment are to identify signs of elderly abuse, to identify types of home health assistance for those elderly who are in need, and to initiate appropriate referrals. According to the National Center on Elder Abuse Administration on Aging, there are two categories of elderly abuse. The first is domestic. This is when the person who is committing an act of abuse is related to the elderly person. It could be their children, a spouse, a sibling, a caregiver, or a friend. The second category of elderly abuse is institutional, and this is when the elderly person lives in either a nursing home or an assisted living environment. The incidence and prevalence of elderly abuse is largely underreported. In many cases, elderly are unable to communicate what has taken place, or there is fear of retaliation for reporting. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention report 6 types of elderly abuse as being physical, sexual, emotional, neglect, abandonment, or financial. Those elderly who have been physically abused may present with evidence of scratches, bite marks, slap marks, or punch marks. Additionally, they may have been harmed or threatened by use of a weapon such as a gun, a knife, or another object. Involuntary restraint is also another form of physical abuse. Another type of elderly abuse is sexual. This is when an elderly person is touched inappropriately against their will. Sexual abuse can occur when the elderly person is unable to communicate their wishes to participate or not to participate, or if they cannot comprehend what is actually taking place. Another type of elderly abuse is psychological and emotional. The elderly victim may be subjected to humiliation, a form of controlled behavior. They may be socially isolated. They may be restricted from going places. Their finances may be taken away from them. And finally, their property may suffer damage. Neglect is another type of elderly abuse. This is seen when the patient is malnourished, they are poorly groomed, or they have inadequate housing. Abandonment is another type of elderly abuse. This is where a caregiver or a responsible person is involved and have simply abandoned the elderly patient. Financial exploitation is another type of elderly abuse. This is where the caregiver or responsible party, such as a POA, misuses their authority. The elderly victim's personal property could be affected. Their finances could be affected. And there is some form of deception on the part of the caregiver. The hotline number for reporting elderly abuse in Pennsylvania is 1-800-490-8505. You can also report elderly abuse in Pennsylvania to the Department of Aging. Their phone number is 717-265-7887. There are many types of home health assistance programs that provide services to the elderly based on their needs. A home health agency can provide nursing services, services for physical therapy and occupational therapy, and services for a home health aide. A home care agency can provide non-medical services for home health aides, certified nursing assistants, or companion services. There are also staffing agencies that can provide home care nursing services. And finally, there are private and independent providers to provide nursing services in the home. This concludes video log presentation number 4, Importance of the Social Assessment During the Depression Screen. Thank you for joining me for this presentation.